Hello, welcome to our next Tavern Talk.
Hi.
This time for Vaesen. We're going to be talking about episode 2 of our Vaesen campaign. And without any further ado, over to Eric, our GM. We got you, Eric Arlek from Forbidden Lands. Let me just change that while you're talking.
Arlek, yes. I will
I got it.
be...
And I'm
you can
right.
change it. Oh, look at you.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Never mind. I won't touch it. Great. Cool. Let's talk Vaesen. So the first thing I had is this is kind of strange. I'm jumping straight over Forbidden Lands, and I'm not in the right frame of mind. Sweet. How is everybody? If you're watching this for the first time because you're choosing to watch Vaesen instead of Forbidden Lands, is glad to have you with us. Cool. So the first thing I had on my little list, and I'm kind of thinking about the episode as it happened. I asked the players before we started if one of them would like to give a sort of recap of the previous session. And I just wanted to get an idea from you, the players, and maybe anyone who's in chat. Like, was that cool? Was that great? Was that useful? Was it maybe like too much time? Toni, I think you did awesome. It was like a completely comprehensive like review of the previous session. So anyone that's like tuning in is gonna know exactly what's going on. But I just want to know like just the concept of the recap in general, if that's something we should be doing or maybe not. Or maybe a different way to do it.
I've got opinions on it, but I'll wait until you hear the other two thoughts. I'll go last.
I usually do it in most of my games, so
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, I was a little bit unprepared, maybe because I don't think it was the first time. So for this game,
Yeah, I sprung it on you at like the last minute. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Next time you give a heads up.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe one of you will be chosen.
Yeah, I was like in the shower like a couple hours before. I'd be like, that'd be awesome. Let's do this. Anyway.
But I think it's a nice thing. I always do with in all my games. I always ask somebody, and if not myself, if I'm the GM, will just do it. So I have no issue with it. I like it.
Cool.
I was gonna say I think it's a good thing because you get to know what more or less what the players want or what the players remember from the session or what's important to them. So I think in that sense it's a good tool.
Yeah.
I think maybe combining it with an additional recap from the GM if you want to make emphasis on something that will pop up that the player didn't mention.
Yeah.
But I think it's great otherwise. I used to do it at my table all the time. We'd have one player that would always do the recaps, and I would start like the theme song of the recap and tell him you have 2 minutes.
Oh, that's great. I love that. That's cool.
Because he would just go on forever. Like he'd go into he would write everything down because he was really into the game, and he'd write every single detail of the session that happened for the next session doing the recap. And I was like, speed it up. You don't have to go into every single detail.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Off the
What are you
map.
thinking, Matt?
I think it's a great device, but I don't think it's well suited to our. I was going to say I don't think it's well suited to our format here because we only have 2 hours. But I think Rodgers is onto a good point here. That putting a time limit on it is a really good idea. So we can plan that in. We can say you've got 2 minutes, and whoever's going to do it. We know that there's a 2 minutes. I'm happy to be the timekeeper, or whoever. Or maybe you as the GM, you should be the timekeeper. And at a certain point, if someone's still going on, you can give them like a 10-second warning or something, and say, like, "You got 10 seconds left." Interrupt them and say 10 seconds left. Because I worry myself. If you as the GM were always giving a recap, I would be telling you as the host of this channel to say, please keep it brief because we have a limited amount of running time. You should be feeling that pressure anyway as a GM. But if we don't put that time pressure on us as players to do the recap, then it can go a little bit over, like become overlong. That's not to say Tony's was overlong. I just, for me, I'm worried about that happening, and I think that's a really good solution. So,
did you actually check? I don't know how long it took me actually. Maybe.
I
didn't check. It doesn't matter. I think it's more
curiosity. Yeah.
I think it's more a case of setting a precedent for it. So to make sure that we don't end up losing, 5+ minutes, especially if I'm doing the recap. I am a blab. Like I will fucking talk. So, I did a 20-year anniversary with my well, it's actually like 22-year anniversary with my graduating high school class earlier this year. We hadn't seen each other since we graduated, most of us, and we were all supposed to give a 5-minute recap of our of what had happened. And when it came to me, I was the one who got interrupted to say, "You've been going on for 7 minutes," and I was like, "It can't have even been 5 minutes yet." So I definitely need a timer. Like I wouldn't trust myself if you had me doing, if I said I'm doing the recap. So I think the timer would really help.
So here's an idea I also had. I mean, it's not an idea I had. This is an idea I'm stealing. Shout out to Andreas over at Sweden Rolls. Is one of the things I love that they do in their Forbidden Lands campaign is they have each, like, a character per session highlight sort of like one event from the previous session, but in character.
Yeah.
And kind of talk about it. I think that's super cool. It might be another way to do it.
It's pre-recorded. It's not done live.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing.
Yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah.
And
yeah, it's pre-recorded.
That's, I don't know.
Yeah, it might not be realistic at all for our format. But I'm just pointing out, like, that's a really cool thing.
I think the idea of the time limit maybe is just a good one. Maybe we can do a 2-minute, recap. That's always fine. We play every month, so people might forget. The
recap is good. The recap, I was going to say, even if we don't do it ourselves, I think the GM should definitely give one just for us as players to have the recap. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll think about this for next time then.
I think that
we'll definitely keep it to 2 minutes, and I think. Yeah.
I think what Andreas does is wouldn't work here personally.
Right.
Also, I know that he records most of his campaigns in a massive single session, like this, like a 12-hour session, and his episodes are like an hour long each. And they'll record. They'll have like a massive 1 or 2 days where they're recording everything together in a big chunk. So they're doing those in-character recaps. Yeah, they're doing their in-character recaps directly after they've just had that episode, and just as they're going into the next one. So it wouldn't really work here because it wouldn't be as fresh in our minds. It would require somebody to take the time out to record something.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll let Andreas have the monopoly on that cool feature.
I will say this: I'm taking notes. I'm opening my OneNote and I'm typing. You probably hear my keyboard while we are playing.
I haven't noticed.
So I've been taking notes. I have two pages already.
I found with this game, I'm oblivious to everything outside when I'm doing it. Like, I'm just riding the whirlwind. I don't. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing then is things that I got wrong, or
What about your prep?
Next time. Actually, I'm going to do that after this.
Okay. All right.
Serious.
Yeah.
So what is the GM ever wrong? Go on.
So the GM is never wrong. However, we are on this show under Matt's direction, doing things as well as we can by the rules and helping to teach these games. So the biggest thing, in fact, the only thing I'm aware of that rules-wise, the only thing I'm aware of rules-wise, I definitely got wrong last time, is I fell into my year zero habits. And when it came time to make things easier or more difficult, I was modifying dice pools.
You're out.
And that's a no-no. And Vaesen, so the two examples off the top of my head, whereas when Amadeo, Toni's character, was operating on the previous gunshot victim, I reduced his dice pool instead of making it like 2 or 3 successes to succeed. In fact, that would have mattered because you only rolled 1. So that might have been a push situation or something like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But in the moment, I only reduced your dice pool. The second, and this is sort of like a larger topic, and it's not large. A larger topic in itself is that Selma's scene where she wakes up and is trying to escape from the woman on the ground. And so, like, how I handled that situation, I was like, oh, this is easier for you because you're taking all these, like, you had a plan for throwing shit at her and running, right? And I was like, we'll just give you bonus dice for that, especially because you have no dice pool whatsoever because you're horribly wounded. So I gave you bonus dice for that, and that kind of played out in a way that I wasn't super happy with. And I was thinking, and this is somewhat problematic in itself, and this comes down to the fact that in Vaesen, there are no rules beside your mystery advantage, like that one-off advantage, or giving or making a situation easier, right? So what I could have done, contrary to what I had done, which is just giving you bonus dice to run away, is say you flee successfulup. However, this woman, she wants to pursue you, it's going to be more difficult for her. So when I rolled for her test, I would have required 2 or 3 successes for her to catch up. That's an option. There's a flaw with that option too, though, which is that in that case, I'm not accounting for how many successes Selma could have rolled, right? Because this is sort of like an opposed test situation. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Yeah. And there we are. So yeah, those were the 2 times where I should have modified number of successes necessary according to the rules as written, and instead I modified dice pools because I've been playing Year Zero games for the past year, and that's just my habit.
I think it's worth noting that none of us picked up on it either. I've been running Year Zero games for a long time. Simon's been running Year Zero games as well. I know that. I think that's it, though, right?
Yeah.
Toni and Rodrigo, you haven't done any Year Zero games. You've
I
done
mean,
Year Zero Mini.
Has done.
I've run some Mutant Year Zero one-shots,
Okay.
but I've never run a long-term campaign.
Okay.
And I've done Year Zero Mini.
Yeah, but
several one-shots of that.
I think. I think I actually have normal advantage in that. But yeah, I think the point is, like, for all of us, Vaesen does it very differently to any of the other games. So none of us picked up on it, and like I think we're all aware of it now. Yeah.
I think it played well enough in the moment. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's a larger engine that this works. It's just again,
I think it's worth pointing out that it would have meant in Tony's case that he wouldn't have actually had a success there, which is kind of interesting, right? Well, maybe he would have, because he would have had more. He also would have had more dice in his pool,
and he could have taken a mental condition.
And he could have taken a mental condition to push, so it could have actually happened, but it would have been a little bit different.
So why did they change this in Vaesen compared with the other Year Zero? Why is this change?
So I have a feeling. I actually quite like the change. It's a different way of handling. First of all, looking at disadvantage, right? Disadvantage in normal Year Zero games, you remove the dice from the pool. And for me, that's when I first read about the Vaesen thing, I didn't like it, because one of the beauties, in my opinion, of the Year Zero system is that when you're rolling the dice, you only ever need a single 6 to succeed. You have no target numbers of any kind. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Anytime you have more than one, it's like it was originally in Mutant Year Zero called a stunt, but basically you have a greater effect with your success. And when I saw target numbers being introduced, I had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I know they're in Tales from the Loop as well.
Kind of in Coriolis, kind of.
Yeah, that's true, because you have this. You get a critical success, which is kind of like a full success, I guess, on a three successes or more. So it kind of has it there as well. But you still, with a single 6 in Coriolis, you're good. In Tales from the Loop, it's exactly the same as Vaesen, and it's telling that the same designer did both of those games, right? Niels Hinze. So he likes this system. I've been a player in a campaign of Tales from the Loop, and I actually liked it there, but the game felt very different in a lot of ways. So I didn't really. It was kind of okay. And here, Vaesen has normal combat. It feels pretty much like a lighter version, but still a kind of normal Year Zero engine powering it, compared to Tales from the Loop, which changed a lot of things. But I think in play and thinking about it a lot, I actually quite like it, because you're only ever adding that extra success when there's a disadvantage. It's instead of taking dice from the pool, you're saying, no, because this is harder to do, you're going to need 2 successes. Or if it's almost impossible, you're going to need 3. And I like that, because you're not interacting with the dice pool so much. The dice pool can only ever go up. It means that you never have to worry about negative dice, which is a bit of a pain in the arse sometimes. So I've come around to it. I actually quite like it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it in more Year Zero games. But that's just my opinion.
Like conditions subtract dice.
So conditions will subtract dice from your pool. Okay. So that's the only time that would work. It's
just the difference between doing it for like all games typically have this situational modifier situation, right? Like if something's easy, you add a 20 in a BRP, or if it's difficult, you subtract 20 on a BRP, right? Year Zero Engine does the same in a lot of its games by saying if this is ridiculously easy, you add 3. If it's a little bit easier, you add 1, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas as Vaesen is saying, no, 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 don't mess with the dice pool in this way for situational. Just do, like, if it's really difficult, it's 2 successes. If it's incredibly difficult, 3 successes. That's it.
I think my big issue and why I had a knee-jerk reaction at first is because of games like Burning Wheel or Degenesis, where you're getting more successes on the dice generally because you're getting for example, Burning Wheel, it can be a 4, 5, or 6 on the dice is a success. So you're always the GM is always having to jiggle around how many successes are required. It's a constant think anytime the dice are being rolled. Oh, how many successes for this roll? And I don't like that. That's what I was worried about. But in reality, because it's still a single success for any roll, only if there's some sort of disadvantage do you do that. I think it works quite well here. So
yeah, it's something I'm not going to be doing very much of. Like again, like in this past session, there were 2 cases. In the first session, I couldn't think of any cases where it would have applied that I would have made it more difficult. And I also think it underlines this point that if something's not already difficult, you shouldn't be rolling anyway, right? Like, again, like the alternate way I might have handled that scenario is just like, Selma, you're running. That's done. And then this lady, if she wants to chase you, she has to roll more successes because of this disadvantage you placed upon her, right? So yeah, that might have been how I would handle it if I was doing it today.
I was looking at the rules, and apparently, if you get help from other players, you do get additional dice to your pool.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah,
but again, that's not. Yeah, so that's kind of like a separate system. Like that's like the help system as opposed to like the situational.
The way, but I think the way to look at it. So that's just the disadvantage with the additional successes required. The difference with it, the other big difference that we haven't talked about that you've talked about, Eric, is the advantage as it's called in the game.
The advantage
because advantage is specific to every what do they call it, scenario or mystery specific to the mystery. You can only use it once per mystery, and you get, is it 2 dice?
2 dice.
Yeah. So you get 2 dice when you're using that advantage in the scenario, and that's it for the mystery. And that's it for the entire mystery. You don't get it on a case-by-case basis. So the only way you can get advantage is if you're using gear or if you're getting help from friends, and that's it. Or a talent. A talent might help you out as well.
Right.
And that also actually makes things a little bit simpler, I find, because there are fewer places for players to slow the game down by searching for dice to add to their dice pool, which can be an issue in some games. I think Forbidden Lands. With my home group, when I've run it once, we did have an occasion where one of my players really slowed the game down because they were trying to squeeze every additional dice they could, knowing that I get an advantage for this. What about this? Is anyone going to help me? Let me just check my talents again. Let me read through my talents. And it's like, for fuck's sake, man, you've got 8 dice already. You only need a single success. Just fucking.
And you have like 2 talents. Like, come on.
So I think there's a lot to be said for limiting, where extra dice can come from, because it helps speed up the game ultimately.
It's really nice. I can't say enough nice things about Vaesen. I like it just being one sort of dice. And anyway, I'll move on beyond this to talking about my prep. Again, like, there's not a ton of prep stuff I can talk about because I did my prep now like 2 months ago, and I'm just riding that wave for at least one more session. But there is some things that I can talk about prep in this sort of Tavern talk, which is that something I added, obviously, in between last session, or not the last session, but the very first session, the previous session, is we had the opening set piece with Salma, which I had prepared, obviously, between one and the other. I did not intend on any of you being captured. I had nothing prepared for that. And sort of one of the benefits, I guess, of like how we're doing this is that I had a month in between one and the other to be like, okay, so what's happening with Salma, right? Because it's an immediate question in my mind, right? Like, we end the first session with Salma being captured. And I'm like, well, what happens? right? So I had to figure that out. And so what I went with was this sort of like opening set piece, right? Where Selma's dragged through the woods. There's this conversation going on around her. It allows me to bring it a bit more atmospheric. So I'm talking about the forest and things like that. I totally forgot what the fuck you call pine needles while I'm doing it, but don't, whatever. That's my own self-criticism. Anyway, yeah, I was like pine something. And anyway, so this is all happening, and Selma gets dragged off, right? So this set piece is definitely something I put in between sessions. I was happy that I was able to put it in there. And let's see. So there are a couple things that happened here. Is that when you're setting up a mystery in Vaesen, when you're writing one, you name a number of different locations, and you assign clues to these locations, right? And so I fiddled in between sessions with which clues were available in which areas, and how they could be accessed. Because I had figured out early on, like, they're not just going to, like, Selma's not going to die immediately for this, right? Like, and I kind of explain that in the mystery as we're going forward. And so I'm like, okay, so what can they learn from this? Like, how do we move this in a narrative forward direction? So I thought I was so happy when toward the end of that session, like, Rodders, you were like, oh yeah, and she's talking about the children and this and that and the other. I'm like, yes. It was like a super high for me as a GM, because yeah, like I decided, like, which kind of clues, like, already this sort of spot where they dragged you was a location that you could discover, which I wrote into the initial mystery, and there were clues attached to it. But it was more like modifying how you were discovering them, obviously based upon your circumstances. That was the vast majority of prep stuff I have to talk about for this previous session, is just doing that opening set scene, what sort of clues were delivered in the process. There's one other little tweak I made, which unfortunately I don't think I can really talk about yet.
All good.
But it has to do with Sven shooting Amadeo. So
Okay.
yeah, how that played out. I had an original plan, which I somewhat altered for this episode, and that led to that situation. So yeah, and then I guess based on kind of like on these prompts, talking about this opening set piece and this sort of PvP situation, what do you guys think? What are your takes?
Toni didn't enjoy being shot.
No, that's for sure.
No, I have to say that I quite like what you did with Selma. I agree with you that it was a nice way of bringing also extra atmosphere to the mystery, and it's something that of course you couldn't know from the start, but I think I really enjoyed like those 5-10 minutes, even if Rodrigo didn't manage to, I mean, Selma didn't manage to escape at the end, but it was nice to see. And we cannot use this later with our characters, but it was nice to open this bigger mystery and to learn about these guys in a nicer way, and adding this extra atmosphere on the forest. So that I enjoy quite a lot. So that I'm totally with you. Then for the rest, the only thing is that I felt a little bit that we were rushing a little bit on trying to find these clues or these things. So I was also trying to roleplay a little bit more Amadeo, in the sense of, okay, I see a guy who is almost dying, or when I think they were discussing, Hjalmar was discussing with these guys, and I arrived with Sven, and they're like chatting, and they're like, hey, this guy needs medical
Someone
help.
was shot.
I mean, can you stop chatting and let's move on? So I was trying to, and I don't know if that slowed down a little bit the game, but because I thought at least my character could take care of this of Sven first, and then we see what happens with the rest of the things. And then of course we arrive to this house, and there is this guard guy who is also like majorly injured, and like, oh, more work. And that kept, but I like that that part because it made evolve my character, and I made this guy that he's thinking about his patients. So I'm kind of using this to develop the character a little bit more, and not only through the mystery I develop this character, and I will start painting a little bit more what he's gonna be, because I have some ideas, but so I really enjoy that. And I was trying to role play it as much as I could, and even at the end, I was that with the arrow, like, why did you shot me? And they were chatting, it's like, hey, I have an arrow, can you let me fix this, please?
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, I enjoy it quite a lot more.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree with with it feeling rushed. I think, not from your GMing, but from us as players. I definitely felt the need to try and push things forward. And I think I maybe from Simon maybe got that impression a little bit as well, because I think he and I were both taking some reckless actions. And I think we need to just take a step back and think, despite what the game says, it's like meant to be one mystery per session, roughly. Like, if it takes us 3 or 4 episodes to get through one, and it's great role play, and we're telling a great story, who cares, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can do some play around with the XP a little bit because of how long it at the end of it, because of how long it took or something. I don't know.
Perhaps. Yeah.
But I agree absolutely that, like what Toni said, that it felt like at times I felt like we needed to rush things a bit, because like we've only got an hour left. This is meant to be a one session encounter, or like one session mystery, but it's kind of like, well, it's interesting stuff happening, and how could he do like it's a mystery, right? It's like we don't want you to give us the answers. They're clues that we're meant to figure out. Like, it takes as long as it takes.
That's interesting pacing. I didn't have this impression that it should be necessarily
I felt
one session, one mystery.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not even sure if the book actually says that or not, but I don't
remember
the impression
that.
I have.
It does give you the sort of guideline when you're creating your mystery, like if you want to make it shorter or longer, and you sort of adjust the number of sort of places you need, and typically clues are assigned to places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also you sort of map out it sort of like geographically, if that makes any sense, like where like one place can lead to 2 other or 3 other places, and then there's a final place, right?
Yeah,
anyway,
so like
how you set that all up can make it shorter or longer. I feel like a lot of the mysteries in, like, say, the mystery book that was released for the game are probably 2 or 3 such mysteries. Like, we're probably like 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
So like 3 or 4 sessions for our stream.
Yeah.
That's
for
cool.
Like.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we've played already 4 hours, right? We are going to play 2 more hours, and hopefully we'll finish, but we don't know.
It sounds
6
like
hours.
The way I'm taking last session and sort of where you were going at the very end, I feel like next session may be our last session of this mystery.
I think from my perspective, it's probably just me, because I knew I was playing Vaesen, I haven't actually looked in basically any of the chapters beyond character creation and the rules. So everything to do with the mystery and everything, I've just not looked at it. The bestiary, I've not looked at it, other than quickly flicking through and looking at the pictures. Because I love the art. But I haven't looked at any of the stats or any of the fluff or any of that. And it's basically, I've just been under the impression the whole time that the mysteries should be done in a single session. And,
I don't think so.
And I think that's just, for me, more than anything, is just to switch that off a little bit and be like, let's just enjoy the mystery, to take as long as it takes. And maybe we can have that conversation with Simon as well. So I don't know if he's felt that as well, but maybe it's just me.
This one is designed around the sort of standard template, so
yeah, okay.
See.
From my perspective as well, that was a really interesting twist with shooting Toni with the arrow. I was not aware of it in advance. I got a direct message in Discord from Eric saying, I'll read the direct message out. It says,
yeah, that's okay.
Suddenly, you're feeling even more angry, infuriated. You see Amadeo, and he doesn't belong here. You have to destroy him.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, shit, I'm going to be shooting my arrow at Amadeus. Which is what I did. And I thought that was really good, because I was trying to lean into the role play with it, where it's kind of like, being really angry and, eventually it passing that feeling and me being confused about what happened. That was really good. It was a really nice little twist for me, like kind of selfishly as a character. Yeah. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the session.
Cool.
I thought it was nice to have the spotlight kind of shifting to different people as well, because we were split up. And it was nice to have Toni's character have a bit of time as a doctor, and Selma to have time in the forest with the crazy people. Well, the influenced people. Yeah, and also for my character, I think I keep forgetting that he's like this illusionist. So there was the one bit where I think I pulled a rabbit I pulled my dove out of a hat.
Yeah, you did your dove.
Just because I was like, I have to remind myself that like who I am as a profession, and not just be this noble person who's being an arrogant prick all the time. Because it hasn't quite to me felt that natural yet. So I need to kind of figure out my character a little bit more.
I mean, I think part of it is like focusing on like what aspect of your character is sort of more important to you, right? Like there's the illusionist side, but maybe the noble part is what you're playing up, and that's fine. Like,
yeah,
I actually like the dove in that moment. I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like,
my motivation is nothing to do with becoming a better illusionist. It's all about getting my noble family back.
Right,
I think I kind of see my illusionist as like, it's kind of like a hobby that allows me to earn some money, and it's if I didn't have to do it, I could just be a noble and just like be a lazy shit and just have money come to me. I would do that totally. So, sorry, Tony, I interrupted there.
No, I was thinking next time instead of a dove, maybe a rifle. But yeah.
It's not Forbidden Lands, and I'm not a peddler like Arlek, unfortunately. Yeah.
Cool.
As for me, I really like the Sven shooting Amadeo scene. I remember being like, "Are you sure that's not vigilance?" And Eric,
nope. No, I was sure. This I had double checked.
No, because in my head it was like, "Oh no, they're sneaking up on us," so it's obviously a vigilance test. And suddenly, oh no, Sven shoots Amadeo. Okay, that makes sense. It's not a.
Yeah, I knew in the moment exactly what you were thinking. I was like, no, it's not that.
So, that was really interesting. I really enjoyed the whole Selma scene.
Cool.
Unfortunately, Selma is inquisitive, so the first instinct was not to run. I swear I was not trying to kill the character or because there's always that one player that's just playing to mess around and get his character killed or something like that.
Yeah, it's me. I know that guy.
and I'm trying to like kind of find the balance between the Selma is this really inquisitive journalist. Of course, she wants to know more. She wants to investigate, and seeing this person unconscious was like, ooh, here's an opportunity to learn something. And I wasn't like trying to get the character killed, just to clarify that, because it's like a very difficult line to stand on between how much should I risk the character's life without becoming tedious to the GM, because obviously you wouldn't want to immediately kill the character or constantly have to be saving the character.
Yeah.
It's like, would you describe it as standing on a saber's edge?
Yeah.
It's funny. I will say part of the preparation for that, I had actually scripted out the conditions upon which he would wake up.
Ah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For the go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just like, he passed these conditions. I was like, well, here we go.
That's cool though. I like that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, to be honest, I was expecting something when I went to heal this. Selma, but I was not expecting Sven shooting me. I was expecting one of these antler guns with a musket like shooting at me.
Yeah.
But I said, this is what Amadeo would do, so it doesn't matter. But that was a surprise.
Have we checked Sven for antlers yet?
Yeah. Who knows? Just like little buds, right?
Just starting.
As for the speeding up of the mystery, I think that there is also an element to take into account when you're playing a mystery game, there is the desire as a player to find out what's going on. You want to reach the solution. So I think that's something
that's
to
true.
take into account with us maybe speeding things up. It's like, yeah, let's get to this. I want to know what's going on, who these children are, what's the Vaesen, what's It's like,
Screw the NPCs.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's actually what I did with Selma is I took a character from fiction and I try to get into that character's head, and that's basically how Selma is. Like when Sven and NPC was in the room, Selma's like, "Who's this guy?" Anyway, let's go do this thing. We need to find
Yeah.
out.
That works, I think,
Yeah,
too.
it turns
though.
out. Yeah. Sorry, man.
No, that's fine. Sorry, I was interrupting you.
No,
Turns
I
out...
was just saying that Sven the NPC had things to offer. Had clues.
Well, Sven told us the story about this legend about the island. So how do you do with the clues base? How do you give a specific value to each clue so we don't discover the mystery too early? Because I guess that's a finicky thing to do, right? Like, because
yeah, it is. We'll find out. We'll see how this turns out. Yeah. So basically, okay. What can I say?
I'm just thinking not
Yeah.
it's a specific mystery, but I would, me as a GM, if I have to GM this game, I would say, okay, I cannot say too much, so I need to give small piece here, small piece, but maybe one of them is more revealing than others. And how do you, or when these two are together is more revealing than if you have these two together. So that I think is quite challenging as a GM. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say is that if you're designing so again, like going back, I think the designing a mystery chapter in Vaesen is excellent. I have almost no experience doing mystery-based play. And I feel really good about like how this is going so far. So 100% credit to Free League for doing an awesome job on this. And so with a sort of standard Vaesen mysteries, what you'll do is there are a number of different things you need to solve a mystery. One of them is sort of identifying what sort of Vaesen, if any, is involved in the situation. Identifying what the conflict is, what the sort of conflict is, because there may be a way to resolve it in some way. And also like there might be secondary conflicts as well. There might be clues related to solving those. So it's all about, you want to give sort of indication of what you're dealing with, how to deal with it, and either the primary or the secondary conflict sense. And so that's really it. Like you're just plugging in. You're saying this mystery will lead them sort of in this direction, and then you're saying, this clue will lead them sort of in this direction. And another clue might give a bit more clarity to that, right? Like, so the first clue, it might be kind of vague. Like, okay, eventually we need to go here to this location. And a second clue might be like, okay, we definitely need to go to this one location, but maybe we should go to this other location first because there might be something else there. So yeah. Sorry?
I feel that could also lead to things very linear, right? Like,
So that's the danger, right? Is that if you go off the first clue you have and say, oh, well, I have an idea that maybe we should head over there, right? In our mystery, like, I think you guys have pretty well established that this island is sort of important. Now, if that's the very first clue you find and you're like, well, let's just go there, then that can be a very linear and short mystery. It can also be a complete shit show, right? Because if you head into sort of a confrontation type situation before you're kind of prepared, that can go very poorly. And meanwhile, there's this other clock that's ticking, which is built into every mystery. And I think this is true in Tales from the Loop as well. That there's this other clock where basically progressively over time, narratively, things get worse and harder to control. So you have like these competing things where you want to you want to get as many clues as you can to sort of optimally solve the situation. But at the same time, if you're sort of taking too long or things are going too wrong as you're doing it, things can spiral out of control.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see going into this next session what your particular balance is on this scale, and yeah, go from there.
Can you
yeah,
plant
unfortunately-
like misleading clues, for example, or
herrings?
things that are not? Yeah, things that are not really. They're just flavored, maybe. I'm just
can't
guessing.
tell you whether I did or I didn't.
No, not on this one. Just general.
However,
I think that's a good enough answer.
I will say this though, as a general principle, I believe, and I think I'm taking this from Seth Skorkowski, is that don't bother with red herrings because players are really good at just doing that themselves. You don't need to do that. Like, they'll take care of it. So it's not impossible that there might be some sort of little things that are red herrings. And it's not impossible that some of you have pulled on threads which don't necessarily lead anywhere already.
Okay.
I'm
But-
sure I can think of one. But yeah. Sorry.
But, yeah, it's not impossible, but I'm not saying it's there either. But I will say, as a general principle, I don't feel a necessity to put any giant red herrings in.
I mean, we started the adventure saying, "That's probably a red herring. There's probably nothing in the main road. Let's go."
Right.
Yep.
So yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, that's most of what I have for prep. Again, like I can't wait until after we're through this and I can go through in much more detail with my specific prep for this mystery. And I also think that I brought this up, I think, in the Discord. I think after we're done with this, I'll try to put this in some sort of publishable format, and I'll hand it out at least to the people that are like subscribing and watching and things like this. And,
Yeah, you should put it on
probably like
Free
through
League
our
Workshop.
Discord, actually, through the Three Skulls Tavern Discord. I'll give up the mystery. I think that's a
You
good
could
way
do it
to handle
on do it on the Free League Workshop.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, but I kind of want to give us our viewers a first shot at it.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. And the final thing, I don't know what I meant by this, but I just wrote down Dalifjord. So like the village itself, and the map. I'm not even entirely sure what I wanted to talk about. Like is that shit. Oh, one thing about it is that something I'm very aware of is that I haven't introduced any sort of female NPCs yet. There's a thematic reason for that. Partly is that a lot of the women are actually working in Uppsala, like their factory work. Like this is a big proponent of the time, or a big. There is one notable sort of female NPC. She just hasn't kind of come up yet. So it's something I'm thinking about. It's something that's there. I just want to kind of give a shout out that like I'm not just being like a horrible human being. It's something I'm aware of. The village itself, like I shared the map of it in our last session. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to give this, again, like I'm trying to make it feel very much like a sort of abandoned place, and there is this contrast between the rest of the village, which seems to be, I hope I've conveyed in like a sense of sort of disrepair and decline, versus like the super modern looking church, and this whole thing is going on. Yeah. Go ahead, Rodriguez.
I was just gonna say the solution to the adventure is burn down the church, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I guess I made that too obvious.
We have to sacrifice the priest. It's the only way.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully it's a cool location. I hope everyone's like, I guess that's it.
I think it was nice that you shared the map with us, even though I'm quite aware it says player map, So there are things hidden in the GM map, but that's okay.
For our first session, I had drawn a map for myself, basically. Because like when I was drawing it out, I was like, this is here, this is here, this is here, and I was like, wait, I can't give this to them. So before our previous session, I was like, okay, I should. They're actually going to get to the village this time, so maybe they should have a map. So I drew it up. I apologize for my horrible
All good.
penmanship and such. But
It's always nice to have a kind of a handout that you can look and think a little bit about the thing. So yeah, it's always cool.
yeah.
I mean, I'm also terrible at drawing. Don't worry about it.
Likewise.
Same.
Yeah, I think the map and the Dolph Yard and mentioning that I'm not just overlooking women in general is kind of like all I had to say about that for the final point. Yeah, kind of what I have. We're a little early.
It's okay.
Is anything else you guys have that you want to talk about?
No, I think it's maybe being well. It's something about the healing, but I think it's maybe being confused and maybe playing first time this game or this kind of engine. I was a little bit surprised that you cannot really heal anybody that much. I mean, of course there are no potions or crazy things like this. So if you have 3 physical conditions, you keep them, and yeah, I can heal them, but I need to spend a whole scene, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, that's a really good
that's
point.
the only thing.
I had this written down, so yeah, let me talk about this a bit more. As I wrote this down on the side. I wasn't super satisfied with how I handled Sven recovering his conditions. I feel like being in a basically like present for a surgery, no matter how much morphine he's on, like that doesn't feel like what they had in mind for like your recovering conditions during a scene. So yeah, I wasn't super satisfied with how I handled that specifically. I feel like there should have been a more relaxing and natural way for him to recover those conditions. At the same time, I'll reveal that in my frenzied GM head at the moment, I was like, I have players in like 3 different situations, and I'm like, let's just throw them together and we'll just do this scene and he'll get his conditions back. And but yeah, so the way healing works, healing conditions, it can take a long time. It can be a scene, which is just for a couple, which you kind of have to move that aside, or it can be like a whole day in which a doctor like Amadeo can restore. I think the base is 4, or the base is 3 plus 1 if you have a specific talent, right? So it's 3 or 4. 2, but only for 1 character if it's in like a scene, like a devoted scene to that. The balancing factor to this again is this clock that I was talking about, right? The more time sort of spent on recovery is the less time you have to discover clues. So there's a sort of there's a natural balancing act going on there.
That means that I'm not gonna heal next session. This is what you're telling me.
You've got an arrow sticking out of you, right? And you're. This is something I actually wanted to mention too. We'll come back to the arrow. But the way I see it is like you've been pretty badly injured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, regardless of solving the mystery or not, we don't want you to die. So we probably will add complication to our investigation by stabilizing you and trying to get your conditions back, to use the game term. At least 1 or 2, I would imagine. But none of us are doctors, so I don't know how. We'll figure it out. You just pull the arrow out, right? You just yank it out, right?
Yeah, obviously. Pour some vodka. That's it.
It'll be fine. You guys have plenty of liquor, so you'll be all right.
That's true.
Yeah, that covered.
The one thing I wanted to say around the arrow, Tony's character was not actually, so Amadeo wasn't actually, didn't take a critical injury, right?
Right.
No.
But we narrated it that you had basically had an arrow sticking out of you, which to me seems like a critical injury, right? Because that's basically life threatening. The way we kind of narrated it as it like went in buried itself into like meaty shoulder part.
Yeah.
And I think this comes back because I was one doing it, and I think I was quite excited by it happening and all the rest of it. That I was thinking about it a little bit afterwards when I thought like, oh wait, hold on, it wasn't even a critical injury. This is a throwback to me having played a lot of D&D when I got started getting back into roleplay, not by choice, of course, but it's what I played with my it's what I played with my home group who I love because they all wanted to play it. And in D&D, you don't have critical injuries; you just have HP, which goes down and down and down until it gets to 0, and then you're basically have a death saves. And so you kind of want to narrate all these big hits that happen where somebody has their HP going down, but they're not dead yet. And that's where people are getting pincushioned with arrows, or they get a massive blow to their head or something like that. And it just doesn't work like that in the Year Zero engine. And we're doing it in Forbidden Lands too at certain points, I've noticed. And I think it's important to think about that, where an arrow being shot at Amadeo gave him like 2 conditions. Three conditions, right? So you got all 3 conditions.
He was
ticked.
wounded.
He's it's wounded or injured. Anyway, whatever. Wounded or injured. Yeah. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but it should be really quite a superficial one because it's not actually broken. He hasn't taken a critical injury, and some of those critical injuries are much less severe than getting stuck with an arrow, which is pretty fucking massive thing to happen to somebody. So I think the way, like in hindsight, the way I should have been thinking about this as a player, not getting all built into it, and of course as a GM, you're gonna want to bounce off of this narrative that's being built and everything. But I think what should have actually happened is that the arrow shouldn't have embedded itself. It should have caused a really nasty cut potentially with like a lot of blood coming out. But something that's not critical, that's not going to take days to heal from. It's not going to give some sort of permanent defect, which is what a critical injury would do. So that's something that's just an observation more about how we kind of ran away with the excitement of the moment. And it happens in all Year Zero engine games that I run and I'm involved in anyway, because it gets exciting. And it's like, for me, I blame D&D.
Ranged weapons are tricky with these systems.
Yeah, they are. I agree.
And any sort of like it's this way, and like any others, like, or to take the D&D example, right? You have your hit points, which represent all sorts of like magic and luck and whatever. And like someone shoots you with an arrow and your HP goes down, you're like, well, I got shot, didn't I? Or it's just my luck less now. Like, what is that? So yeah, it's a good question. I do like that Vaesen gives you the conditions with roleplay prompts, right? So we can say Amadeo was hit, like you say, it might have been like a graze, like he's cut or something, because he is wounded. Whereas before, like with battered, like maybe the arrow landed really close, right? And he barely missed it. He hit his head against a tree or something, right? Like we can narrate that in different ways without him having been shot, like actually.
Fenhorn's making a good point in chat as well, which is that the arrow could just go in a couple of centimeters, so it would hurt a lot. And bleed a lot, but it would be easily fixed, and that maybe that's the way we handle it. It's not buried, like it's not poking out of the back of his, out of his back. Okay. And maybe like he saw the arrow coming and like just moved a bit, so it kind of like his movement kind of took a lot of the momentum out of the. I don't know how the fuck.
Yeah,
that
it could
works.
just be a weak draw, just like
a week. Yeah, sure. I mean,
Sven,
come on, just Sven.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean,
my strength's not high. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about arrows is that generally, like, an arrow wound just bleeds a lot. It's not like a gunshot wound where it causes tons and tons of tissue damage.
Okay.
So being shot with an arrow and surviving is not crazy if you're sort of attended to, because the biggest threat is from bleeding. So yeah, that's another thing to mind.
Anyway, it's an interesting thing to think about, right? With how critical, like you look at the critical injury table and you think, okay, that none of these happened. So whatever happened narratively wasn't as bad as any of these things. And it's just something to try and be cognizant, I think, of when we play and there's combat scenes. Is that anyway? Yeah.
I was looking through the cheat sheet for medical care. Had Sven been broken in that session where he got shot? Oh, so technically healing him should have taken the entire day.
Oops.
According to the cheat sheet.
Does it say that?
For crits,
says,
probably. Yeah, I think it sounds about right.
The only way of healing a broken condition is use medicine in a safe location to heal 3 conditions per success, including broken, and it takes an entire day. Whereas if you rest for a scene, you can describe a scene together with 1 or several PCs to recover from 2 conditions, except broken, once per day.
So there's, if you go into the skills.
Yeah, in the skill section, it's a
and-
bit more ambiguous. It says that you can use it, like you can only use medicine once a day. It doesn't say it takes a whole day to do it.
So there's the medicine
But
under healing.
there's a recovery section in the combat chapter as well. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, under healing injuries.
Yeah. And that's where you're looking now?
Hold on.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking now.
Okay.
Okay, I opened Pandora's box. Great.
No.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does say that. Yeah. Yeah. You can't do anything else that day. You gotta spend a whole day recovering. That's conditions. Time. Treat. You can treat a critical injury, which takes a turn.
Yeah.
Right.
But then to heal the conditions, it takes a full day. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, so under medicine, when a player character has sustained a physical critical injury, she may sometimes require medical assistance or survive. Passing her skill test means that she is no longer broken. Each success heals 1 physical condition.
That's on the critical injury, the treating the critical injury, right?
So I'm looking at the actual skill.
No, that's
for
that
medicine.
also carries over here. So so this is the point, is if someone's broken and they have a critical injury, when you're stabilizing it only takes a turn to stabilize it, and any extra successes do heal conditions as well, and that doesn't take a whole day. If someone is just it just has conditions and you want to basically see to their conditions, then it takes an entire day to just heal conditions. So it's kind of like you almost want to be broken.
Yeah.
If you need healing. Sorry, Amadeo.
Except that
if
you
you did more
die.
success. No,
Yeah,
unless you
take a
die,
critical.
yeah.
So I think I've heard people say this before. It's like, oh well, I'll just break you and then I can heal you. It's like, yeah, except for then you're rolling on the critical injury table. Like that's not.
You can have a permanent negative to one of your attributes.
Yeah, that's not negligible. Like it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to heal these 2 strike points back, so just break me. It's like, yeah, you might die. Anyway.
It's
Yeah,
an interesting point though about how long it takes to just heal conditions. I think I can feel a homebrew, a house rule coming on for that potentially.
Well,
But
I think that so the balance, the trade that you're making is that you can heal 3 conditions among multiple players over a day, or 4 if you have the requisite talent.
you're still rolling, right? You're still rolling a medicine roll to do that.
Yeah, so for that you're rolling. You can also do your sort of scene, right? That's only 1 character, and they heal 2 conditions. And that doesn't include broken.
Okay, right.
I think my personal issue with that is how it feels weird. Like not hey, let's get broken so you can heal me faster. But like I don't know. I guess you could say it's cinematic, but let's say you take a critical injury in combat, and a medic could heal you in 1 turn, and you're just standing back up because if you got a good heal, you lost a condition, you're no longer broken, and you could be fighting again. Whereas if you're broken and the combat's over, and you're broken and you didn't take a critical injury, you're like, it's gonna take a day.
Yeah,
And
except that
was,
but I feel like that isn't really gonna come up a whole lot, because if you're critically injured, like you have to roll a lot of successes to sort of get the person back to the point where they would be if they'd only taken 1 or 2 conditions. You know what I mean? Like if you're broken, to get up to you've only have 1 condition, you have to have 3 successes, right? 1 to treat the injury.
Yeah.
You know,
4
you're-
successes, and then you need to
Yeah.
remove.
Which is a lot, right? So
Then you're right, 3.
yeah. So yeah, like you can on an edge case have a situation where a character has taken 3 conditions, they're wounded, and you can't do anything for them without taking a whole day. Whereas if they had been broken, then you might be able to get them like 1 condition higher.
You say that, but if you think about being able to push on a on a medicine roll, and
Yeah.
the number of starting, like if you're looking at Amadeo as a character, right, who has a very high medicine skill, has a high wit skill, and has the doctor's bag, which gives an additional bonus, and then has the ability to push on it. I think 3 successes is within the realms of possibility compared to like
Oh, sure.
anyone
It's
else.
it's in the realm of possibility. He's also taking condition for doing that.
He is taking a condition to do that, but yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, it's possible, but
We're just looking up to see exactly what the dice pool is actually on Amadeo for that.
Amadeus a lot.
4 logic, 2 medicine, so that's 6, plus the
It's not
talent.
precision. I thought it was precision.
It's
Precision and medicine,
precision
no?
now.
Oh, precision,
Yeah.
still 4 anyway. Yeah, right. Sorry. Yep. Also, any conditions, he's got the talent emergency medicine, which means that he can ignore any conditions, physical conditions, when making a medicine check, which is also pretty powerful. And he's got the doctor's bag, which gives him a +2 bonus. So
8.
regardless of how much damage he's taken from physical damage, his precision is always going to be 4 for a medicine test. Always going to have 2 for the skill, 2 for the doctor's bag. So he's always rolling 8 dice, which is well above average in a Year Zero game. So yeah, and with pushing as well, like obviously, I actually would be taking precision damage there, not a wits one, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see how it works out in play. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's balanced well by only having a scene where people can heal their own conditions for like 2 conditions, because you only have 3 conditions before you're broken. So being able to heal 2 is quite a big thing. And I think that's probably what we would do. Is none of us are doctors. None of us are going to try the medicine skill on Amadeo. He's also because that would take a whole day. It would take a whole day, and we don't because you don't have a critical injury, so we're not going to try and fumble around and fix your arrow wound. We're just going to be like, you fix it, patch it up yourself. We'll take a scene to do it. The rest of us can also take a bit. We're meta knowledge as players know that it's going to complicate the mystery a bit, but that's cool. That makes it more interesting, in my opinion.
He can always take a scene by himself and go have a few drinks and talk to someone else. Get those conditions back. Probably him and Salma just hanging out.
Amadeo, I lost all my alcohol. Please tell me you have some.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I spent all my resources on that alcohol.
With this foreshadowing done, I see we're at time. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Just
Ferhor also mentioned about it.
Yeah. Go on. I was going to mention that as well.
No. You probably know more about it. I don't know about Forbidden Lands. Just pointing it out.
Yeah, Fenhorn in the comments is just contrasting how being broken, healing broken, being broken. Ah, God. Healing characters who are broken in the 2 games works. And in Forbidden Lands, it takes D6 hours, so it's swingy, and it doesn't take a whole day to get back up. And in Vaesen, you have to have a whole day with someone caring for you. So kind of it's interesting to point out, because Forbidden Lands does feel a little bit more typical of a role playing game, I guess, in how it handles that. It feels a bit more traditional.
yeah,
which is fine. Which is what it is. It's like a retro. Yeah. It's like a retro game trying to have that sort of feel a little bit. And the characters do feel a little bit larger than life in it, compared to Vaesen, where it's like we're just normal people trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and got shot by a fucking arrow. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he makes a point of it being more, it's harder to push as well because you're always taking that damage, which is true. So, yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah, you're right. We're kind of over time, technically. It doesn't really matter too much, I don't think. But, yeah, Fenhorn's just made the comment. This is just tickling through my head here. I wonder how good a group without a doctor would do. And I did think that, like, if I had actually really hurt Amadeo so bad that he had a critical injury, none of us could heal him, we would be fucked. Like, it would be pretty bad.
I think Hjalmar has some healing skill. But yeah,
we could try. We don't need the medicine bag. We don't need the doctor. Anyone could try the medicine roll on you. And yeah, as Eric just said, Simon has, I think, 1 pip in it. So
yeah,
We would
So
be able to
he's your
try.
backup.
There would be an opportunity to try. You wouldn't necessarily be like definitely dead. Yeah, he's got 1 and precision of 3, so he's got a whole 4 dice.
Yeah, with the doctor's bag, maybe.
If he's using your doctor's bag, I'm sure that would yeah. So that'd be next
He's
to
got
2.
like a 66% chance.
Yeah, medicine equipment of some kind is required. Yeah, that's true. So anyway, cool. So we can leave it there if everyone's happy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Thanks to you all for showing up.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
always.
awesome.
And just to recap, sorry, Eric, you're gonna hear it again.
Yep.
If you're watching this in YouTube after the event, then and you're a Twitch user, it helps us a lot if you could head over to our Twitch channel. The link will be in the comments below, or in the description below, I should say. Yeah, go over, check out the Twitch channel. Hit the follow button so that when we do go live, you'll get an email alert to let you know. We don't have to keep an eye on social media. And yeah, we love the chat. We love interacting with people during the chat. So the more people we have in there, the better, I think. Not that, no shades being cast on Fenhorn. Thank you very much, Fenhorn, for being there chatting to us. But
Yep.
all the way through, both. Fenhorn was in there for the. Ooh. Did Fenhorn join for the Vaesen one? This would be interesting.
I think he was in.
I think he was in
Later, the
it
Forbidden Lands
like
as
partway
well.
through the Forbidden Lands one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was telling me I was right. So.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, head over to our Twitch channel. Hit the follow button. That'd be also help the channel out. It helps me to stay motivated to keep doing content, knowing that people are, following the channel too. And the usual thing with YouTube, hit the subscribe, like, bell buttons, all those usual things. That also helps. So thanks so much for watching. Leave some comments if you wanna have any questions about anything or want to get in touch with us. Also, all the links to social media are in the description as well. Cool. That's
Makes
us.
the bots happy.
Makes the bots happy. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.